I'm not going to pretend to know everybody's NIL skeletons in their closet. So I don't know if other programs are dealing with that as well. But I know that Tennessee looked like a befuddling moron in how they've dealt with it. They let Ricky Gibson walk into the portal, walk out. They let Mike Matthews do the same thing. Now the Nico situation. For the pioneers of NIL, they're looking like they're absolutely down on the plains. Like they've what was it? The computer game that they've died of dysentery. I mean, as far as pioneers go, they're not looking like they're in front of the curve.
So let's ask this question. Has Tennessee been all talk for the last 2 years? You know how like in business, you've heard of businesses that do this, Dave. They hemorrhage money for a long time, but they just brand themselves so well that people invest and eventually they turn a profit.
Here's what I think they are to answer your question. I think they're Lewis and Clark. I think they've gone out west. I think they've discovered it. But does anybody depend on Lewis and Clark to actually grow harvests and fields of food and actually set up a settlement? No. You expect them to go out there, be pioneers, find the land, draw us a map, and then we'll go out there and do the rest. Tennessee's been a pioneer. They've done that. And now they're stuffing the mess kit.
So it's like they want to sit there and brag about like the fact that they got out ahead of this, but they don't want to. But what's the truth is they didn't have a plan after it.
And it was Oregon Trail. Thank you, Nathaniel. A little before your time, where you could die of dysentery.
You know what Tennessee's really doing, guys? We're talking about like as Nathaniel Kim says, fake it till you make it. Tennessee's in the NIL world, like in a way that Butch Jones rose to the coaching ranks, where Butch Jones faked it till he made it, basically. And I mean, it just feels like that's what they're doing. And I think this is a look, let's go way back here, okay? Tennessee publicized the fact that Nico was getting $2 million a year when they signed him in 2022. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
They publicized that. They embrace NIL. They declare open war on the NCAA and win and become superstars to everybody for doing it on behalf of Nico's right to do this. And then this offseason, Ricky Gibson enters the portal. Mike Matthews enters the portal. Both come back. Boo Carter, by the way, tweets that he's staying at Tennessee when he never even entered the portal. We're kind of forgetting that one. Remember that, Dave?
Yep. Yep.
And then this whole Nico Iamaleava saga is carrying out. And we're starting to think, well, wait a minute. You guys, when Tennessee was landing players last year, what we heard, and Josh Pate was reporting it, they had put out this narrative that they haven't just thought about NIL-A. They've thought about NIL-B, C, D, E, and F, including things like the pilot sponsorship. Danny White coming out and doing a talent fee. You know, we know that about that with Neyland Stadium, the entertainment district.
My question is everybody still peachy king over Josh Heupel without NIL? Okay, because they've been lumped together because of the timing of it, right? Josh Heupel is a great innovative offensive coach. NIL is going to offset the recruiting disadvantage that Tennessee faces by being in the state of Tennessee, by facing more prominent programs like Alabama and Georgia. NIL is going to offset it. Is Josh Heupel on his own reason enough to get this without NIL? Is he reason enough to keep Tennessee's fan base engaged and excited?
Without NIL, is he reason enough to keep his fan base engaged and excited? Well, there wasn't much NIL when he first got to Tennessee in 2021, and I think that was exciting when he did that first year because that's one of the greatest overachieving jobs I've ever seen a head coach do. And going 7-6 should have warranted Coach of the Year that year. I think Josh Heupel still at the end of the day has a very, very good system. I think he's innovative with the system. He's proven he can adjust with the system. That doesn't mean he does everything right. But I don't think I can sit there and be totally out on Josh Heupel just because if Tennessee loses its NIL advantage. Now, I'll say this.
But Caleb, how in year 4 do you not have an answer at the time?
Year 5.
No, year 4 last year.
Oh, year 4 last year.
How in year 4 do you not have an answer at the offensive tackle issue?
Well,
that's befuddling to me. And you're leaning on a guy that was just a true freshman transfer.
Well, this is where we're talking about Josh. By the way, Todd Hearn says Ricky never entered the portal. Todd, yes, he did, but he came back in. He's back at Tennessee. This is where we're talking about with Josh Heupel. I said this with the Joe Milton saga 2 years ago. I said, Josh Heupel, the coach, I got no questions about. I got none. Josh Heupel, the GM, which you are in college football and recruiting and roster building. Josh Heupel, the roster builder, that's been a red flag since he's been at UCF. Heupel's never proven himself as a roster builder, ever. He seems to have serious deficiencies in that regard. And this is why we talked about, it's funny that while all these schools are hiring a GM, Tennessee's not one of the ones getting ahead of the curve on that. If anybody needs a GM, it's Tennessee. Honestly, I don't think Josh Heupel's a great roster builder. And this is where you could put NIL into play. If Heupel's a bad roster builder and Tennessee doesn't have its NIL stuff together, man, that's a catastrophe with the type of roster you're going to have, isn't it?
Yes. New poll question on board. I want your thoughts on this. And it's a very serious one. You can go ahead and read that, Caleb. I'd appreciate that.
Let's see.
By the way, Unsung, what's a PSYOP? I heard that reference the other day. What do you know what a PSYOP is?
It's kind of like it's hard to explain, but it's like it's
well, then let's not do it now.
It's like it's something to distract you from like what's really happening. Like it's like a psychological operation is what it's short for. So you basically use
within any moment we're going to hear like Arian Carter's off the team for moving massive amounts of heroin. Like, to distract us, is that what this is about? I'm joking about Arian. Go ahead.
So your poll question is: Josh Heupel is closer to Butch Jones or Philip Fulmer championship? 100% are still staying Philip Fulmer championship. So that's the good sign for Tennessee. But look,
that's not going to stick. There are going to be some people that, and listen, how far is without the NIL? How far is Josh Heupel away from Butch Jones and how he's portrayed? Offensive coach who struggles to build a roster.
I still think he's a lot better than Butch Jones. Okay, the roster building is an issue, but let's not forget this. Butch Jones's offensive strategy wasn't that innovative. He was following what Rich Rodriguez and Brian Kelly had already done, and he didn't know how to tweak it or adjust it at all. And on top of that, in-game strategy is way better with Josh Heupel. Again, Butch Jones's basic like in-game decision-making is the worst a Tennessee coach has ever been. And that's...
But Josh Heupel, I mean, I don't see how he's in terms of, listen, do you want to go back and look at Georgia's program heading into year 4 or year 5? You want to go back and look at Alabama's program? I mean, don't you know at this point where you have a solid championship coach or not? Is there ever been a situation, maybe with the exception of Dabo Swinney, where you've kind of floundered around for the better part of a decade and then won a championship? Does anybody else on the message board or otherwise have an example of that?
I mean that's Michigan kind of floundered around with Jim Harbaugh.
Kinda, but that was for like 3 years. And they only didn't beat Ohio State.
Harbaugh was there for 6 years and they never beat Ohio State. And then he wins. Then they win. I mean, I don't know, man. I got to go with, I think Michigan fits your category a lot more than you think. If I'm being honest, I think that
I'm not saying it's not time. I'm not saying it's time to make a change. And I'm not saying that Tennessee shouldn't be patient with Heupel.
And I don't think they floundered around.
Hold on. As Michigan was, they were patient with Harbaugh. But what's he closer to? Philip Fulmer or Josh Heupel? Guys, that's not even a
Butch Jones.
Sorry, Butch Jones. He's closer to Butch Jones. I mean,
he's not closer to Butch
Fulmer
Jones.
would have a solid roster built by now, guys.
Josh Heupel's had 2 10-win seasons in 4 years. Butch Jones didn't have 1 10-win season in 5 years, and Butch Jones inherited a much better situation than Josh Heupel inherited. Okay, so I can't give you that at all. Like
I'm just telling you that Philip Fulmer, the recruiter, was good even after they had the loss in the SEC championship game in 2001. He was a decent recruiter after the disaster of 2005. The recruits were still coming in.
Dave,
and I don't know with Josh Heupel. Are they still coming in because of NIL dollars? Are they coming in because he's a great coach? And I think this is the time to step back and have a serious conversation about whether or not he's the future of the program, because the offense wasn't that great. That was his calling card. NIL, he may have ended up messing that up if this doesn't get fixed. And he doesn't handle the PR game well. He's afraid to get out in front of this. I think you've got a real question mark as your head coach now based off this one latest issue, and it's a big issue.
Okay, Dave. I gotta say this in all due respect to Philip Fulmer, but with Josh Heupel, Ray Goff is not walking through that door. Okay, at Georgia. Mike DeBose is not walking through that door at Alabama. Philip Fulmer had some recruiting pipelines that it's just impossible for Tennessee to have nowadays because of the coaches that are at Georgia and Alabama. Okay, and
Okay, but let me ask you, aside from who they're playing, Nathaniel brings this up. Nathaniel, I'm gonna steal this. Program has no identity right now, so that's true. What's the identity? What's the
offense.
identity of this program?
I mean, high flying, fun offense, but
Did you watch them last year?
yeah, but okay, I get it. I get where you're going with that, but like that was an adjustment based on what teams were doing.
That's fair, but let me ask you about Mike Leach, who had far less talent, and we've said before, had far less offensive acumen than Heupel. Would he have ever put together an offense that struggled as much as Tennessee did last year? The answer is no.
No, but also Mike Leach had plenty of 4-8, 5-7 seasons during his time as a head coach, and I think last year Mike Leach would fit a square peg into a round hole. He was running his offense no matter what. Is that fair to say? And he
Yes.
wasn't changing anything. And so I think a better comparison to Josh Heupel with what he did last year, Dave, was what Urban Meyer did with Chris Leak. Remember? Chris Leak was not a fit for Urban Meyer's spread offense, but he tweaked it, and it was not what Florida expected. I think you remember, right? The year they won the national title, everybody wanted Tim Tebow to start immediately, and Urban Meyer stuck with Chris Leak. And I think Heupel tweaking what he did last year because of his personnel, like I'm sorry, man. I think you're being very unfair to say he's similar to Butch Jones. I watched all 5 years of Butch Jones, and the dude was making the same mistakes in year 5 that he was in year 1 at Tennessee.
Now, I'd say closer too. I didn't say
No, he's not even closer. He's much closer to Philip Fulmer. And also, we got to, Dave, I
Well,
pushed back on the.
Let me reset the new poll question really quickly because I want to get a good assessment of that, a good sample size. Josh Heupel is championship caliber. Butch Jones, Mike Leach, Johnny Majors. Majors would, of course, lead you to believe there could be an extended period of success. I know it didn't end the right way, but he got a lot of leash. So I give you those 4.
Championship caliber. I'm leaning championship caliber. I'm sorry, I am. I still believe in Josh Heupel. I think we're being very unfair to him with this Nico saga. Now, again, Heupel roster building is an issue. And here's where Josh Heupel will fall and turn into Butch Jones in a bad way. If Heupel stays in charge of the roster building, and if Tennessee does not have its NIL together.
Well, it's feeling like that may be the case. I mean, is it not?
It is. It is, but we're going to have to see.
Feels like to me they were the first out there, and they're going to reap the benefits, but they're also going to hurt from the benefits because they were the first to do it.
Yeah. I agree right now. They did not have their NIL together. At least they didn't collect. They haven't been connected with the right people. And they were bragging more than anybody about being on top of it. So this is an ugly look for Danny White.